Thank you for joining today's call. It's top of the hour, and I'll kick off the session right about now. So I'll enable my camera and introduce myself, and we'll kick off. Now, please, everyone on the call, just kindly send a chat. Send a yes if you can hear me, if my audio is good. Just send a yes if you can hear me. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Anybody having audio issues before I kick off? I assume no one. Okay. Okay, thank you. So I'll do this. Okay, can you guys see me? Okay. Okay, I think it's a little bit dark, but I'll just try. Let me see if I can improve my lighting. Just hold on a bit. Oh, still looks dark. Okay. Oh, still kind of dark. Okay, I think I'll just introduce myself. So good morning, everyone. My name is Chuks Nije. I'm an instructor with Threaten Academy, and I also work for Threaten Networks, so kind of hold a double role in the company. I'm a Cisco enthusiast, and I'm a technology evangelist, as well as programmability evangelist as well, those still upcoming. And I'm here today for us to discuss, for me to walk you through how you can get started with programmability, working with APIs, interacting with devices that understand APIs, and how to even understand the basics of SDN, which is software defined networking. We'd also look at where we used to be, which is the native CLI engineer, and where we should be concentrating on now, where we should be driving technology to. So that's just a summary of why I'm here. So if you want to connect more with me, you can reach me out on LinkedIn. I'll just post my, I just try to push the link to my profile on the chat. So you can reach out to me if you want to have, if you have further questions, or you want to find out more about network programmability. Oh, I think it's my audio bad.
I can hear you very well. I don't think the audio has any issues.
Okay, okay. I think someone is having issues with the audio. Chinedum. Okay, okay. I think you can hear me. Okay. So you can reach out to me on LinkedIn if you have maybe further questions, or you have there's something you want me to collaborate with you on, and I can take it up from there. So I'm just going to put off my video, and we'll kick off. Just a minute, guys.
Okay.
Yep. So network programmability, what is the agenda for today? So the agenda for today will be where we are, why we are here, where we are right now, what we're actually doing. Then we'll look at the concepts of network programmability. And we'll now look at programming network devices, right? What you need to start programming network devices. Then the main agenda today, which is what? RESTful APIs and RESTful APIs, right? Then what kind of data does these devices return? When we make the calls, when we make API calls, what kind of data do those devices return? Is it what we can understand, or is it what is human readable for us to be able to play with or inject it into other codes and softwares? Then I will now walk you through also on how to get started with no physical infrastructure involved. You can get started just right away after this webinar. So why are we here? So we're here because networks are growing, things are getting expanding, networks are becoming more data centric, more intelligent, machine learning is coming into play, right? You have more things connected to the internet. Sometime in 2019, it was predicted that we will have about 20 billion devices connected to the internet, right? And I think we have superseded this. And why do I say that? Because right on this call right now, I can say that we have about, if I'm not mistaken, we should have about 30 to 40 devices connected, right? Because some are connecting with their smartphones, some are connecting with either their laptops and what have you. So each person on earth with a minimum would have at least 2 devices connected to the internet, right? Basic could be just your phone and a laptop, but let's expand a little.
Yes,
So let's assume that each person on earth has at least 3 devices, which is a smartphone, a smartwatch, and a laptop, right? And lives in a little smart home, right? So it means we have more devices connected. Now we have cars connected to the internet, Mercedes-Benz, Audi, Tesla, and the rest of them. So I think we have superseded 20 billion devices. Now, how do we communicate with these devices? Are we just going to be communicating with them by accessing each of them one by one? No, that is where SDN and programmability comes in. Now, like I said, everything is becoming connected, right? From everything becoming connected, everything now becomes software-based. Things are now becoming easy. You just have one dashboard to view and control millions of clients connected to the internet or connected to your network or your enterprise or your fabric or your campus, monitoring activities, administering security, and the rest of them, right? Everything now generates data. All these things I've mentioned now generates data from either the devices or from telemetry they learn from even your system. So you have iWatches generating data to tell you your heartbeat, to give you information on how you're feeling and the rest of them, right? So with this, everything is now becoming automated, right? Everything is becoming automated. So I don't need to physically be in US to manage a network. I don't physically need to be in Canada or in Peru or in Germany to know what's happening. I can work remotely. So far, I have the tools, and those devices understand what network programmability is, or the protocol that supports network programmability. So I don't need to be there physically, right? And with this, we can see that everything needs to be secure. So you can see that we started from having things connected, everything becoming software-based, generating data, right? Now automation is here. And what now protects automation? What now protects everything that we have mentioned? Security. Now, to be very sincere with you and to be very frank with you, security at some level is also automated. It's also automated because if these environments we're managing or we're administering, something happens and these devices tend to send data to our security environment and say, oh, this is happening, before there will be human intervention. Human intervention means I have to instruct the system to do this. Before there will be human intervention, the system would have remediated something. It would have done something, right? It would have instructed the system to either block something or allow something. So to some level, security is also automated. Now let's look at the basic concept of programmability. The basic concept, right? Networks are no longer isolated, right? Networks are no longer isolated, which means the cloud is not on its own, right? AWS is not on its own right now, right? They have devices connected, they have people connected. Microsoft Azure is not on its own as well, right? Rather, and GCP as well. So these cloud environments you see, right, are also interconnected to physical devices, right, on your data center, right? So you have routers, you have switches, you have access points, and the rest of them, right? So they are connected to each other, right? So they are no longer isolated, right? And these protocols, these devices understand protocols that support programmability, right? That is why everything is now connected. You can manage them using tools. That's where DevOps come in. Tools like Ansible, Chef, Puppet, right? You can also manage them via web apps, APIs. You can manage them via APIs. You can also leverage on containers. You can see the cloud environment here as well, connected to the devices. And all these things you see make up what we call an intelligent network, right? So networks are no longer isolated like they used to be. Now, software-defined networking. Software-defined networking is the basic approach to understanding software-defined networking is that the capabilities of the device have now been divided. They have now been separated, right? So that there can be easy manageability and control. So what we used to have before was the router, the device, right? A device, the router or a switch or any other networking devices handling the control plane and the data plane. Now, before I go further, let me explain what the control plane is. The control plane is the brain of the router. Just imagine your brain is functioning and you can process things, you can use it to process data, take instantaneous decisions and the rest of them. That is exactly what the control plane does. So the control plane is the brain of the router. So it processes things and it forwards it down to the data plane. Now, what are some examples of protocols in the control plane? You have routing protocol, you have CLI access, you have spanning tree, you have a lot of them there, right? It makes decisions for it. Then these decisions are now taken down to the data plane where traffic is just forwarded. So for every policy that would have happened to the traffic that is coming in would have happened in the control plane. So decision making takes place on the control plane, and while what happens on the data plane is just to forward the packet. So SDN has been able to separate the control plane and the data plane so that the router can function well, right? The router can function efficiently. So we have Cisco has devices or had SDN control, we call them SDN controllers that now take care of the control plane. And what example of those SDN controllers, which you will see in my next slide, on the future slide, are the DNA center, digital network architecture, right? We call it DNAC. We also have EPIC EM. EPIC EM stands for Application Policy Infrastructure Controller Enterprise Module. We're also going to look at that. Then we can now manage these devices via, we can also manage them via just using APIs. If we don't want to use controllers, we can also use APIs, or we can also leverage on scripts. That's why the devices are RESTful. You have RESTful APIs to manage them as well. So let's look at it. So what you have on this slide is a physical look of how the DNA center looks like. This is how exactly the DNA center looks like, and a logical way how they control, how they communicate with the devices and the SDN controller itself, which is the application. Now, if you look at what we have on this first slide, so I'm going to label this, we're going to label these boxes so that we understand them better. So if you look at box one, what you have on box one is application. So the application communicates with this DNA controller, the DNA center controller, via what is referred to as a northbound API, right? So it sends information, right? It makes all the decisions and all the thinking for the devices on this control plane via the northbound API. And the next thing that happens is this controller now takes those policies and rules and decisions that has been taken down to the physical devices via what? Southbound API. And which protocol do they leverage on? They can leverage on SNMP, they can leverage on SSH, Telnet, NetConf, and RESTConf, right? And these physical devices are what? Routers, switches, access points, and even more devices, right? More devices, any network devices, any network device connected on our environment, even fabrics as well, ACIs and the rest of them, right?
So of any product or basically Cisco.
You said? Come again with that question. I didn't hear you.
Is it of any devices, any product, or basically Cisco?
No, not basically Cisco. But the thing is, like I said before I began the presentation, I said Cisco is now opening up what we call third-party integration, right? So third-party integration might be Palo Alto, Juniper, right? Fortinet, and the rest of them. Now, the basic thing we need to understand with third-party integration is that they should support these protocols. At least these protocols, at least 3 of these protocols, right? And the devices should be able to consume, right? The devices should be able to process what we call RESTful APIs, right? They should be able to process that. So once they can be able to process that and send us back information, then we are fine. It's okay. So there's also third-party device integration as well. So what can network programmability do for us? Model-driven programmability. What can we achieve with it, right? We can achieve what is called auto provisioning, right? You can do what is called auto provisioning. Auto provisioning is an instance where you have a device already configured or prepared on the controller, and that device can be deployed on a remote location, and the device syncs back to the controller to download the configuration, right? An example of what I just said is the Cisco Meraki. Right now, for Cisco Meraki is a very good example of software-defined networking and SDN. So from the Meraki dashboard, which I'm going to show you in a bit, from the dashboard, you can have a device configured in Ghana, right? And your office is in Lagos. And you don't need to be in Lagos. You don't need to be in Ghana to configure those devices. You can just configure it from the dashboard. And when this device plugs to the internet, it downloads every configuration. It could be host name, it could be VLAN, it could be routing protocol, it could be security policies, it could be anything, right? It just downloads this configuration and you are good to go, right? So there are models that you can define on these devices or on your script or on your environment for these devices to understand, and operate the way they are supposed to in a programmability environment. So you can do that by defining configurations, defining functions, right? Which means some level of Python is very important. I would recommend that, you get some at least basic understanding of Python and how to write basic scripts. You might not really write scripts, but you can get those scripts and tweak them to what you want them to achieve. Now, programmable API interfaces for the network, right? We have network controllers, just like I've mentioned before, right? You see that, and these controllers understand RESTful APIs for Epic EM and both DNA Center. Now, devices, the end devices we're trying to communicate via Southbound API. Don't forget that, via Southbound API. Must also understand Yang models, Yang data models, which we are going to look at very soon. It must also understand what is a protocol referred to as netconf, right? And restconf as well. Now, how do we get started? How are devices configured? So you can have a network management system, right? Or your operator system. And this system just sends out, information, right, to every other network device on your environment. So these network devices are now agents, right? They are now agents. They don't have that full capability, right? They don't have that full capability to just configure themselves because you have introduced a network management system. So that system communicates with them via these management protocols. So now how do you get started? How do you jump in? Now let's look at building the ecosystem with DevNet. So Cisco introduced DevNet years back. I can't really remember. I think it was in I can't remember the exact year DevNet was introduced, but I joined DevNet in 2018, and it has been amazing. Between 2018 and 2019, that was when I started my career with DevNet, right? So this is an ecosystem of developers. You have developers coming together, those that understand code as infrastructure, those that write codes, and those that understand the network environment come together to build this amazing ecosystem. And you can visit developer.cisco.com, right, to understand more about this environment. I'm going to give you a tour as well. So you don't need to have a Cisco account to sign up on developer.cisco.com. You can use either your Facebook login, your Google login, or your GitHub account to set up your account, register, and get started. So these communities, we have what is called communities of practice, and communities of practice are a group of people that share the same concerns and passion, right? That they are setting to do and learn for better purpose, right? And these communities of practice are the examples of them are GitHub. You can have GitHub where people put up their code for you to use and see how they've been able to create something out of it. And this environment was created and started by Linus Torvalds, which is the inventor of the Linux and Bash operating system, right? It was created by him for everyone to use, right? So that is another community of practice that we can leverage on. We have Stack Overflow, right? Stack Overflow is a place where you can drop questions and programming questions, and you have a lot of guys that are always there to help you out, answer these questions and attend to them. Then you have the Cisco DevNet, just like I've spoken before. So This is where you have Cisco-based APIs to work with and enhance your environment. So what I'll do is I'll just take a little time. I'll take 5 minutes out of my presentation, and I'll walk you through developer.cisco.com. And so this is it. I also paste the URL on the chat. Okay. Okay, let me send to everyone. I paste it on the chat. Yeah, so that's developer.cisco.com. So once you get to this page, you find different learning tracks. You find discover, technology, community, support, events, new announcements. So you can explore each of these drop downs, each of these tabs, and see what they do.
I'm not sure I can see your screen. It's just showing the slide screen. I don't know if it's just for me or the same for everyone.
Okay, just hold on. I think let me. Okay, let me try.
I can see your screen. We are on COPS for programmers.
Oh, no. Hold on, let me reshare my screen and see. Just hold on a minute. Just hold on a bit, please. I need to share. Okay, can you see my screen now?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, perfect. So developer.cisco.com. So please go to this website, and you can just take 5 minutes to follow me and watch what I'm doing. So my account is already set up, but before I navigate to my account, let me show you guys something very important. So this Discover tab is your go-to tab, right? On developer.cisco.com, the Discover tab is your go-to tab. So you have your learning tracks, you have team dashboard, you have video courses, you have quite a lot of things here. You have now the amazing part of developer.cisco.com. My most interesting part is the sandbox, right? The sandbox. Sorry, let me just open the sandbox on a different tab so that we'll get to keep this tab. Exactly. The sandbox part of this lab is just amazing. You have sandbox for networking, data center, any track you want to actually learn. And guess what, guys? We're not going to be using any physical environment. I'm going to be using the sandbox, and I'm going to also show you some.
Where did you say we should go to get to this sandbox environment?
Okay, so when you come to, can you look at my screen? So when you come to Discover,
okay,
right? You have Learn, Code, Inspire, and Connect. On the second tab, which is Code, the first sub-tab there is Sandbox. Sandbox Remote Labs. Can you see that?
Okay. Okay, don't worry. From I can navigate my way from there. Thank you.
Okay, let me just paste the link on the chat. Let me paste the link on the chat, guys, so that everyone is in sync. I just pasted that. So that's a shortcut to where I am now. And don't worry, guys, we're going to explore. So when I'm done with the presentation, don't worry, we'll do some amazing stuff. So that was just a brief walkthrough on developer.cisco.com, but I'll still get back to that. Let me just continue with my slide. And the most interesting part of this presentation today is RESTful APIs. So what are APIs, right? Now, APIs allow one piece of software, right, to talk to another piece of software. Either maybe requesting some amount of data to complement what he's doing on this other side, or just to request information. Just basically talk to each other, right? So let me give you an example. Now let's look at this wall socket. So if this wall socket wasn't here, right? Maybe, okay, let's say you want to plug in your laptop. Because you have a wall socket here, you just plug it in directly, right? But you forget what goes behind the wall socket. So what goes behind the wall socket? What goes behind the wall socket is that you have to open the wall. There has to be cables connected, cables connecting from wherever it's coming from, either your power source, right, down to you slicing the cable and have it terminated, and this is presented to you. So all you just know is when you plug in your cable here, you have power, to power your laptop. Another typical example is you starting a car, right? You starting a car, you just get into the car and it's either push to start or you have to use a key to turn the ignition on. So what happens after that? You don't know, right? So that is you sending like a request, right, to another component of the car, which is the engine, right, to get a function done. Now that function is what? Is starting the car. And what results do you receive? The car ignites, your dashboard comes on, your steering adjusts, your seat takes shape, your seatbelt allows you to put on your seatbelt and all that. So that is exactly what APIs stand for. And you know what amazing, guys? You know something that fascinates me about APIs. They are just easy to use. So far you understand, the work around it and you understand how to interact with it. So an API defines how a programmer can write a piece of software to extend the existing application feature or even build an entire new application. Let me give you another example. Most of us on this call today use Uber, Bolt, and the rest of them, GoCada when they were still operational. And do you think they have Google Map integrated into their software, or do you think they have their own custom built Google Map? No, they just consumed or they just requested, they just integrated Google Maps API into their software, so that when you are moving from point A to point B and you just want to request a ride, right? Once you open up the app and you want to type a location, it calls the location API. So your location is automatically picked and you don't even have to type your location, right? Then your destination is where you now have to input it yourself, because the app itself cannot assume the destination for you. So in this case, a location API is called. So that is what is fascinating about APIs. Now, another example is, a restaurant, like I just gave you an example with Google Map, right? So how do we leverage on these things I've just explained? How do we leverage on APIs? So web browsers use what we call HTTP, GET request, right, to communicate to web servers, right? And these web servers return some certain HTTP code, which is either successful or not successful, right? So that is another protocol that APIs, leverage on. So when you say something is RESTful, right? And meanwhile, we'll explain what REST is, and I'll explain to you what REST is. So REST is representational state transfer, and it relies on HTTP to function. For me, I just call it HTTP because there's no difference. Because when I make a call, when I make a request, it returns a status code for me, and that status code tells me it's either successful or not, just like we have web browsers operate today. So RESTful APIs use HTTP interface for RESTful services, communicating back and forth between web server and client. You also have JavaScript notation, right? It returns what we call, when you make this RESTful APIs, it returns a certain kind of data, that is in a data format referred to as JSON. So this JSON data is what we refer to as JavaScript object notation, and it is actually human readable. So you can understand what the information it has returned from that endpoint. You can understand what it's saying. So if successful, formatted according to the API documentation, the server will respond in JSON. So you can remember that I told you that, in our previous slides, that these devices, the remote devices, for example, let's say this is a router or a switch. Remember I told you that these devices must support what? netconf and what? restconf. Right? These two protocols, and they should also be able to consume and what? Reply, right? Don't forget that. That's very key. Now, what's the anatomy of RESTful APIs? Not anatomy in medicine, guys, but we're going to borrow that word from them. So the anatomy of RESTful APIs is exactly what you're seeing, right? So you have the API server, right? You have the API server you're sending that request to. Then you have the resource you want to pull, right? This can also involve a port number as well. In most cases, you can see the resource might include 80, or it might include 80, depending on the destination port, right? It's also part of what you are trying to communicate with. Then you also have the resource, right? You also have the resource you're trying to pull, the information you're trying to pull, or the directory or a path, right? You can call this also as a path. You're trying to pull information from a certain path. Then the format, the data format you want to receive, right? The data format you want your information to be presented in, right? It could be in JSON. It could be in JSON, or it could be in XML, right? It could be in XML. Then you have parameters. That's where you now enter either maybe you have some authorization before you consume that API, or you have sort kind of an API key that you need to provide before you continue, right? I also want to expand on this API. Just 1 minute. I'm trying to call up something so that I would give you guys a better representation as well. So you can refer to this as your scheme. Your scheme is either HTTP or HTTPS, and this entire server here you can refer to is also as your authority. For those of you who would graduate to DevNet or join us in the DevNet class, you will gain more of this when you join. Now you can also refer to this as your paths. Your path can be a directory, right? Then you refer to this as your format. Your format is still your format. Then you now refer to your parameters as a query, right? Your query, where you have API keys and the rest of them, right? Now, you can also look at API documentations, just to understand more, how APIs work, because with documentations will guide you how best to use the API. And I'm also going to show you how to read those documents and make use of them. So like I explained, you have documentations to tell you, okay, how to use them, the environment variables to import, and so on. Okay, let's look at JSON and XML, data formats. I refer to them as data formats. How is our data presented to us? How do we view our data? Is it human readable? Is it what we can understand? Is it what we can interact with easily, right? And easy to do it. So I'll just run quickly with the slide because I'm running out of time, so that we can look at the lab. So JSON is JavaScript object notation, which I've explained to us before. And it looks like a Python dictionary. Like I said, a bit of Python is involved. So I would suggest you look at Python, maybe introductory part of Python, very important. So it's it looks like a Python dictionary, and it makes use of curly braces. So once you have a curly brace open, you must close it at the end of the JSON file, right? So this is how JSON looks like. You can see that it's very human readable and then very easy to understand, right? So so in this example, JSON returns, you just make an API request, and in this example, you see that this data format is returned in JSON, and you can see that this is also our request was successful. Our request was successful and it returned a success. So in this case, if it was in Postman, it will return 200 with an OK, right? And let's look at XML, extendable markup language. So it extends the functionality of HTML. So this looks like, the HTML kind of response, but it's actually XML, right? So devices also, you can receive data in this format as well. So you can see that in the XML response, the embedded data have the same naming structure, as JSON. So let's go back. You look at how this is arranged, and let's scroll back a little to JSON and see that there's no much difference, right? There's no much difference between them. It's just that one is JSON and the other is XML, but the same data, but in different formats. So authenticating RESTful APIs. So if we must authenticate RESTful APIs, there are different methods to do that. We can either be no authentication at all, right? Everybody can access that API, is public, and we can do what is called basic HTTP, which is an encoded string within the API, right? Then we can do what is called token. So this is what we'll be leveraging on today. Very, very important, token. Or we can do open authorization, OAuth. So I'm familiar with no keys at all, a basic HTTP authentication and token, but we'll be leveraging more on token today.
Okay.
So
Can I ask a question?
yeah, sure.
Okay, the token. So, okay, I think from what I've seen, the JSON and XML, it kind of seems like they're vulnerable to cross-site scripting. Can your token kind of like help you, maybe something to stop it, you against?
Now exactly. So I'm going to speak about, let me give you, let me bring up just hold on. So I'm going to give you example with, I'm going to give you an example with the Meraki dashboard, which I'm going to use for my demo. Now I understand that these two protocols or these two data formats are exposed to, they're exposed to cross-site scripting. My pen is just 1 minute, guys. My pen is acting up. Okay, I understand they are exposed to cross-site scripting, right? But let's look at it in this way. So I have my Meraki dashboard somewhere here, right? And I have my office at, let me say, Abuja. Now, these physical devices are in Abuja, maybe the MX router, the MX, right? And I want to communicate from wherever Cisco has hosted this dashboard in the cloud to this device, right? Now, the best form to communicate with this device is what we refer to as a token. As far as I don't have that token, my API call will not be successful. So if you're trying to inject something, if you're trying to inject a malicious code to this device as far as that token is not within that parameter.
Okay.
It will not be
Okay.
accepted.
Okay.
Exactly.
So, all right.
Does that answer your question?
It does. It does. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So just okay, so I would suggest, so I'll stop sharing my screen and I'll share a okay, let me just share a different screen. So guys, yeah, we're done with the session and it's time for lab. So what do we need? What do we actually need? Right? So what do we need? We need to install, I know few of us have Postman, but we need to install Postman. That's the first step. So how do you install Postman? Let me get the URL for you. Oh, sorry about that. Okay. Postman. So you can Postman download. Okay, let me just. I'm trying to get the link. Okay, that's the link. So I'll paste the link on the chat. So guys, you can download Postman if you don't have. And the lab, so I think we've consumed an hour. Okay, we still have some minutes left. So I beg your pardon to just allow me for more 15 minutes after 11 a.m. so that we can catch up with the lab. I hope that's fine.
Yeah, cool.
It's fine.
Okay.
It's fine.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you for your patience. So, so guys, kindly install Postman, and if you're done installing Postman, I'm also going to guide you on how you can import your environment variables, and let's make some API calls. So as you're installing Postman, I will log into my, oh shit, I used the wrong login. I will just log into my own, I'll log in with my Cisco account. Okay, I'm logged in already. Okay, so let's go to, so I'm going to go to Sandbox. So guys, are you installing Postman?
Yes, we're installing
Can we
it.
use the web version or something?
Yes, we're still installing, so I have to give
Yeah.
us notification to install.
Can we use the web version or download the app?
Web app. It should be a web app.
Okay.
Okay, sorry, for it not to get too fuzzy, you can post, if you have something to say, you can just post on the chat. I'll respond quickly so that it doesn't get too fuzzy. So please, once you are done installing Postman, you can type yes on the chat so that we can proceed. I won't be able to wait for that long. Okay. Okay. I don't think I have a step-by-step guide, but you can reach out to me later. I can have a session with you and guide you. I don't know who is this, but Seb. Seb, you can reach out to me later. I'll guide you, right? Reach out to me on LinkedIn, on Twitter, and I'm going to guide you. So that's my Twitter handle. You can reach out to me on Twitter, on LinkedIn, and I'm going to guide you. Okay, that's fine. Okay, that's fine. That's good. Okay, so let's go to Sandbox so that you understand the lab we're working with. So we're going to be working with the Meraki Sandbox. We're going to be working with the Meraki Sandbox, and just minute, guys, still loading. Okay, there you go. So on the Cisco, on the DevNet Sandbox, you have a lot of sandboxes to work with. So there are two types of environment. You can reserve, and there's always on. Like, so always on means you just log into the sandbox and you don't need to reserve and it gets working, right? So let me navigate to the Meraki Sandbox we're going to use for our demo. Somewhere here. Exactly. That's it. There you go. So you can see we have some Meraki Sandbox environments. We have two reserved environments, and we have always on. So this is what we're going to be using. So I'll just right click and launch this on a new tab. And there you go. So I'm going to copy the link and paste it on the chat. That's the link right there. Pasted it on the chat. And how do we log into the sandbox? So we have a URL right here, right? And you copy the credentials. So that's the credentials. Right. So don't use the Cisco SSO, single sign-on. Just use login with a personal account. And the password is I love Meraki. And there you are, right? So once you log in, guys, please be sure to click on the DevNet Sandbox. Don't click any other network organization there. Just click on the DevNet Sandbox because that's where we'll be working on, right? So DevNet Sandbox, that's it. It's going to give us our environment right now. And that's it. So we have a free Meraki Sandbox to work with. Now, one important thing that we must understand is that this is the dashboard API. So the guy that asked me a question about API or tokens, so this is the exact key we're going to be using throughout our API call. So this key is very important. I'm just going to copy it for easy use and paste on the chat. Paste this on the chat. Then our sandbox is ready, and let's navigate back to Postman. So in Postman, we need to do something here, right? We need to do two basic things. We need to import what is called our API collection, our Meraki dashboard API collection. We need to import that. And we also need to import what is called an environment variable. So these are workspace for Postman. And we need to do these two basic things to get our environment ready. So the first thing you do is, okay, let me paste the link for you guys to download both files you will need. Where's my notepad? I have it here. Copy this. Guys, please download this file. It is on my personal Google Drive. So just download it. It's not malicious. It's just what you will need to import your environment variables and the Meraki dashboard API. So let me show you how to do that. So I've already downloaded mine. I think I'll just delete this and import again.
Is in doc format, Abi?
Oh, it's in JSON format. It's in JSON format. I'm also going to delete my environment variables. let me see. Let me edit this. Let me say update. Okay, I think I'll just show you how to do this. So let me import my Meraki API collection. So how do I do that? I have it downloaded already, and that's somewhere. Hold on, that's somewhere around my C drive. Meraki codes, Postman. So I have them downloaded here. So you will see these two files. You have Meraki dashboard collection.json, and you have the environment variable, right? So I'm going to import these two files. So the first one I'm importing is the collection. So the collection is where you have all the API calls, right? Examples of samples of all API calls that you can leverage on the Meraki, the dashboard API call. So I'm going to open, and I'm going to click import. So you can see exactly, it gives you this, that your API dashboard, the dashboard API has been imported. Then you go to the same folder, right? And also import the environment variable. Very easy. Just click open, import, and that's it. It's imported. Right? It's imported. So guys, where are we? Is anyone still hanging somewhere? Can you guys still hear me?
What do we use as username and password for the postman? Or should we
I don't think you need to create an account.
Okay.
I don't think you need to create an account for it.
Because it's writing create postman account or create free account. Or okay, sign up with Google. Okay, no problem.
So are we good? Am I too fast with the lab?
Yes, I'm trying to request the API. I just downloaded it from your Google Drive now, so I'm adding it to my Postman.
Exactly. So, perfect.
So just a little bit, just.
So I'll give you guys 2 minutes more to catch up with that.
Yeah, thanks. So we are going to import both environments, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Import the environment variable and the collection. So there's collection.json and environment variable environment.json. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So you have just 1 minute more. Yeah, just have 1 minute more, guys. Let's get our hands dirty with 15 minutes. We just have 15 minutes before we end the session, and let's do something amazing. So the good thing about it is I'm going to introduce you guys to this thing, then you can take it up from there. You can do some amazing stuff. And you have the developer, the cisco.com sandbox to play with. And just make sure you don't make any changes, because a lot of people are actually leveraging on it to understand the programmability. So let's kick off. So now I've imported my environment variables and I have my API keys. So let me just view the environment variables. So what is actually on this environment variable? So the environment variables is to help you set some parameters that doesn't need to always be called on your resource, right? on your resource. And what do I mean by that? For example, let me show you something. So you open, and when you click on the dashboard API, you can find a lot of API examples that has been, explored and is working. So I'm just going to navigate down to organizations. First of all, I want to see the list of organizations within my reach that is tied to that API key, right? So now notice, guys, let me change my environment variable. I want you to notice something. Please look at my screen. It's very important what I'm about to say right now. So if you look at this base URL, you will notice that it is saying unresolved variable. And why is it showing unresolved variable? It is showing that because my environment variable, the right environment variable, was not selected, right? And let me now change that down to my Meraki x.cisco.meraki API. You can see that it is resolving it to a URL. So if you go back to your environment variable and you view, you will see that this base URL that was called is already representing a valid URL here, right? So your environment variable just ties information that you can call on your request, right? When you want to make requests and all that, you just call those environment variables, those parameters, you just call them in. You don't have to type them again. Now you have different methods. You have different calls you can make here using Postman. You have get. Get is to request information. Post is to create. You are creating a resource, right? Put is to you are imputing, and patch is to update, right? Delete is to entirely remove, and you have other options you can explore. So for this call, we'll be exploring the get. We'll be exploring get using this URL. So also notice that he also called on my headers, been able to call my Meraki key. So you see that I didn't manually enter the key. I just called that function using my environment variable. So when I click on send, guys, can you look at it? It returned what? An OK. 200 is OK. And this is the time. It just took us a little time to do that. So when you highlight the time, it will show you a drop down of what happened. First of all, there was a DNS lookup. There was now what we call a TCP handshake, three-way handshake, right? After that, we now did a SSL handshake, right? Which means we're communicating securely. And there is now data transfer. And the download took 6.919 milliseconds, right? Very self-explanatory. Now, these are all the organizations that are tied, these are all the organizations that are tied to that API key, right? So we're going to be working with just one organization here, right? And we are also going to be adding this ID, right? We're going to be adding the organization ID as part of our environment variable. So let me navigate down to my environment variable and add, okay, sorry, hope you guys are following. Hope I'm not too fast.
Nope.
Okay, so how many of you have successfully made an API call? Can you send a yes if you have? Just type a yes on the chat. Also notice that our data was returned in JSON. So we can also change the data format to XML and see how it looks like. So if I change the data format to XML, you can see it looks a little bit fuzzy. Doesn't look really human readable. But if I return it back to JSON, you can see everything is readable, right? You can see the organization ID, you can see the name, and you can also see the URL, right? So if you made a successful API call, can you type a yes in the chat? You have a question?
Yeah, so I'm trying to locate. So I've imputed the environment. So it's to make the call. I'm saying the API usage. So how do I start that? Okay, I've seen it.
Okay, can you go to your collection, history
Yeah, I'm in my
collections?
collection. Yeah, I'm there.
Exactly. Now you scroll down to organizations. After network, you have organizations.
Yes.
Then the first get requests.
Okay. Like list organization. Yeah.
Yeah, so list of organizations. Exactly. So that gives you like a brief
An error. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. That gives you like a brief guide on what you're about to do and the API call you're about to leverage on. So, guys, I can't see a yes on the chat. It's not encouraging. Somebody should just make an API call, please. Can you make your first API call as a network engineer? Though some of you have. Oh, thank Johnson. You are not a network engineer, please. Johnson.
Okay. So the list. I made a call, but it brought an error. Error invalid URL organization.
Oh, why? Why? Okay, so let's look at your environment variable. What do you have on your environment variable? Does it look like this? Yeah, you have to get a 200. 200 is okay.
How did you get this environment as
Environment variable.
.cisco.meraki.api.key?
Yeah. Exactly.
You said?
Where did you get that s.cisco.meraki -meraki-api-key?
You have to import it.
We imported it. It gives
I imported
Meraki
it,
dashboard.
You
but it
said?
didn't.
It's Meraki dashboard that I brought out on our own. Meraki dashboard API.
Okay, so if he's doing that, can you edit your environment? So let me paste the key for you guys.
Okay,
Okay.
we are going to pick.
Okay, hold on. I'm going to display my environment variable now. So can you see my screen? I'll also paste the key on, where is this key? Okay, hold on guys, let me get the key. Let me retrieve. I think I pasted the key on the chat.
Yeah, on the chat. It's on the chat.
Please, the key is on the chat.
Okay.
Okay.
The one that starts with 6B, right?
Yes, exactly.
So we are going to edit the environment.
Yeah, please guys, just edit your environment variable. If you want to make more API calls, you can just reach out to me later or maybe join our session. We have another session coming up next week. So it's a 2 session. We have another session coming up next week, and next week is going to be more of labs.
Okay.
Right? So guys, just quickly edit your environment variable. Let's make our first API call. You can take a screenshot and tag me on LinkedIn or on Twitter so that more people can see what we're doing and join us next week. So we have a very first successful from Chinedu. Chinedu, thank you so much. Chinedu, thank you so much. Okay, exciting. So try to explore more API calls. So the call is supposed to last for 1 hour.
Sorry,
And
how do you impute this? Okay.
okay, so let me edit. Can you see how it's going?
My edit is not coming up. Okay.
Good.
Okay.
Quickly just edit your environment variable, guys. Let's make our first API call and let's round up.
Okay. All the values on organization and all that, we also have to impute them, right?
Exactly. So as you continue making some API calls, as you continue exploring some API calls, you will find out that you have to add some environment variables yourself.
Okay, I have to add this serial by myself and network ID by myself.
Yes, but it depends on the environment. It depends on the API you want to. It depends on the call you want to make.
Okay.
Yes, it depends on the call you want to make. Let me show you an example. Let me say, okay, I want to return all the licenses within the organization. So you can see that I'm calling 2 environment variables. I'm calling 2 variables, which is I'm calling the base URL, and I'm also calling the organization ID. And where did we get this organization ID from? So you can pick an organization ID from one of these IDs that are here.
Okay.
So these are all the organizations on this particular sandbox, and you can pick any ID.
Which of the organization did you call?
You can call anyone. So for me, I called can we check? 4608. So this is the one I called. DevNet St. Jones. I called this one. So you can pick anyone and call. All of them are valid IDs within the organization, right? So when I just do this, because I've called the base URL and the organization, I just run send it, and I should get a success. Yeah, that's it. So guys, you can explore more API calls. So next week is more of labs. So we'll be doing more of API calls next week, next Saturday, which is another webinar series, and we'll be exploring another automation tool, which is Ansible. So I hope to see more of you on the call next week, and I appreciate you all for joining. And please don't fail to reach out to me on LinkedIn and on Twitter. I can help and see how to get you started. And also don't forget to check our website, Threaten Academy. We have our DevNet course coming up very soon, which is one of its kind in Nigeria. So I don't think there's any academy offering it right now in Nigeria. And guess what, guys? I am the instructor. So you'll still meet me in class, and it's going to be all fun. So don't forget to check up our website, download the course content and look at it, and you'll be cool. So just I'll give you a grace for 5 minutes for Q&A. If you have any questions you want me to attend to, just 5 minutes. 5 minutes, guys, and let's round up by 12:15. Sorry, just 3 more minutes, guys, and let's round up so we don't stay too long on the call.
Okay, please, I'll just like to, and I think that's been dropped. I wanted to ask to please drop the link to this recording so we can actually try to practice.
Okay, yeah, sure. Okay, I think the link is there.
All right.
Okay, so when we upload the recording, it will be sent directly to your emails. So I think if you registered with your email, you should get a link to download the recording later, and follow up with some of the things I have done for you to view, right? Okay. Thank you so much, guys. I appreciate you, and see you guys next week. Please make sure you join. The link will be shared. We're going to share the links to your emails to join next week's webinar, and also the registration link as well. So I appreciate you all for joining. And I hope to see you guys next week. So we'll just have 2 minutes more for questions. Just a quick one before I go. For next week, I would like you guys to explore developer.cisco.com/startnow. Please explore this. It's going to be of great help to you. I'm going to paste it on the chat for everyone. I'm going to paste it on the chat. Please explore developer.cisco.com/startnow. It's going to be a very good help to you for next week's webinar just about the same time. So thank you so much, guys, and I'll see you guys next week.
Great. Thanks. I appreciate your time.